right, so it's now my pleasure to introduce our first speaker. And at Fuckup Nights, we don't share resume highlights. We like to share fun facts. So I'm going to share 3 fun facts about Sandy Pell. So our first speaker is Sandy Pell from Pellvetica. So 3 fun facts about Sandy. Sandy has a fear of ladders, which will seem a lot more funny once you hear her story. Sandy and her boyfriend once took an 8-day road trip from Toronto to Tofino and spent only 4 hours in Tofino before they got in the car and came right back. I'm interested to hear more about that. And at 26 years old, Sandy won first place in a pie baking competition, and that was the first pie that she ever baked. Please welcome Sandy to the front to share her fuck up.
Thank you so much, Courtney. That was a great introduction. Really appreciate the time. First off, I just want to send a quick thank you to friends and family and coworkers and everyone who has come out to support me through this big fuck up. I'm really excited to share this story with you. I do a lot of public speaking on behalf of my day job leading corporate communications and PR at Vidyard, and this fuck up is the exact opposite of everything that I do in my day job, which makes it kind of a difficult presentation to put together, so we'll see how that one goes. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about a corporate brain versus a creative brain. Again, I mentioned I work in a very corporate environment during the day, Monday to Friday. On evenings and weekends, I spend that opposite time doing the complete opposite of corporate, primarily making very large-scale commercial murals across different walls. So when I was young, society encouraged me to become a professional. This is through teachers and parents and friends and family at that time. So I was heavily encouraged to become a doctor, lawyer, an accountant, and that art was always an excellent hobby, but corporate was necessary. Now, as you can see from my notebooks, I was actually looking through them this weekend while at my mom's house, and it's clear that I was distracted as a child. In that top one, I'm learning about population density and immigration, but clearly I'm thinking about swirl density and population. So around after graduating with a degree at Laurier, I was a very good corporate citizen and went into working in pre-sales at OpenText as a BDR. I really enjoyed my time here. It really got me off to a great start working in the corporate landscape, but at the same time, taught me a lot of very important lessons that help me in my jobs today. So it taught me the importance of confidence, having that perfectionist attitude in everything that I'm doing, maintaining control in a situation, discipline and time management, pre-planning, and anticipating everything. Long story short, I feel very safe when I'm in control. Who else feels this way? Put up your hands. Thank you. Thank you. So around the same time, I actually took a couple days off over Christmas break and painted a mural in my Kaufman Loft condo that I lived in at 23 years old. We were renting this condo, and without giving permission from a landlord, we just painted this crazy thing on his wall. Maybe it's a fuck up, who knows? It's got a story on its own. I'm not going to go into details on it, but it was the first mural that we had ever painted, and we went in completely plan-free. 6 years later, we painted our second mural. We painted no murals between the 6 years. I was working another startup job over in Vancouver. That story about getting in the car and driving to Vancouver, actually, we ended up living there and moving there for 9 years. So while I was working there, Hootsuite, which is a startup out there, they were trying to decor some of their walls, and they put this public mural pitch out, and they're like, artists apply to paint a mural. And my husband and I, his name is Steve, my husband and I decided, let's just throw a pitch in there and see what happens. So they ended up giving us this wall. You can see by the plug sizes, the scale of this wall. This piece was done over a 3.5-day period. The eyes are bright gold, so when you walk in, it actually attacks you. It's a pretty cool piece. From 2014 on, we painted a lot of murals. It's been, you look here and it's you're looking at finished final product of everything, but what I'm gonna stress tonight is that every single mural on here, you could point to any single one, and I could tell you epic fuck-ups that happened throughout the process. But to make things interesting tonight, I'm actually just going to focus on one. It's the third one from the right. It's the guy with the wings. He's going like this. It's called Kitsilano Kids Wings, and it's a mural in Vancouver. So the project that I want to quickly touch upon is called the Beacon. And the Beacon is very special to me because it's actually, everyone knows what a beacon is. It's an indicator of direction, but it actually is kind of an indicator for giving us the project that changed our lives. And this project alone was its own fuck up because once the color was added on this beacon, we actually hate this piece. So it's a little fuck up of showing you the hatred outcome. So we were introduced to the business improvement lead of Kitsilano, which if anyone's been to Kitsilano in Vancouver, it's one of the most touristy surfer, shop, yoga people neighborhoods of Vancouver. Very trendy, very with it. She said, her name is Jane, and she said, I've got this wall. I think there's an opportunity to do a mural on it. I'd like to talk to you about the date. The due date is June 12th. And she wanted to prepare it for this music festival called the Kitsilano Music Festival. And I didn't know too much about this music festival. I had attended it in the past, but I found out quickly that based on that photo in the background, it attracts over 150,000 people over 3 days in Kitsilano in Vancouver. So this is the wall. You can see based on the graffiti smears, the pee and poo that dogs typically leave out front. This is actually on one of the busiest intersections of this area of Vancouver called 4th and Burrard. It's clearly has opportunity and clearly has been wasted. So you can see in the bottom right-hand corner here, based on the green indication, this is my stressometer, my anxiety meter. It's currently green because when we're talking to Jane, we have 8 months until that crazy music festival, so tons of time, we're all good to go. So we say, yes, we can do this, but we think, wait, can we actually do this? This is the biggest piece that we had done to date. It's larger than life because it's not necessarily a piece that just depends on ladders. It actually requires us getting into aerial lifts, rooming up into the air, driving around, and actually figuring out how to paint throughout that process. So the project kicks off once the check is delivered, which happened 5 months later. So my stressometer is moving to yellow because we're at about 90 days now when we're actually kicking the project off. And typically for a project of this size, the time is on your side. So when we're doing pieces that involve animals, we like to actually break down the anatomy and the muscle structures of each animal. So in this case, we're working through the study of bald eagle wings. We want to actually incorporate the Fibonacci sequence and phyllotaxy into this art as well, so it's got a beautiful rhythm that's based on math provided by nature. So with 3 months to go, we're kicking this off, we're rolling along, and we're feeling good. 2.5 months until the due date. Starting to get a little bit more nervous, but still good to go. We're working through iterations. Every single one of these takes multiple hours, and they all are considered failures until the very final one, which is the final iteration, and this is the one that was actually approved in April with 2.5 months left to go. So 2 months to go, the final artwork actually is conceptualized. So feeling good, got our money, we're 60 days into this project actually happening. We're thinking a little bit about how we're actually gonna put this on the wall, but at this point we're focused primarily on the art production. With only 1.5 months to go, the final art is approved. So we're now 45 days away, feeling okay. But based on the fact that this is the largest piece that we had ever done to date and the drop-dead date deadline of this massive 150,000 person festival at the end, time, again, is better when you have more of it. So the final art is approved. Now, we're trying to look around every single time we're walking around Vancouver. We're looking at all this heavy machinery, and we're trying to figure out, what do we order, what do we rent, what are we going to need to do this job? So we're looking at these little scissor lift rentals, thinking, this'll do. And when we call the company to actually rent the scissor lift, they ask us for our licensing. We need to be licensed to approve these, or to drive these lifts, which we don't have. So we hang up the phone and figure out how to get licensed very quickly, because there are many other construction projects that were happening around that time that were gonna lock up all these rentals. So starting to feel our stressometer is moving into yellow-orange, because without our licenses, we're not renting those lifts, and without those lifts, we are not getting this job done. Now, to fuck things up further, my mother and father-in-law came to Vancouver to visit us, and we took a lovely trip to Tofino, and we went hiking, and upon some wet moss, I had a little marriage with the moss and fractured all down my ankle, with only 24 days to the due date. So this really stressed the shit out of me. I didn't know how to talk to the client. I needed this project to be done. It's like stressful even to think about it and relive this, because I literally was on the rock with the ocean thinking, fuck the ankle, I need the mural done. So we get back home. I'm on crutches for a good 6 weeks. I end up having to call the woman who hired us, and I have to convince her that I need more time. And obviously she's very loving and supportive of the fact that my ankle is now a mess. But we're able to drop our stressometer from 26 to 40 days. So we've bought ourselves an additional 2 weeks time, roughly. If you remember that original slide, there's the due date of June 12th, and then there's the actual festival date of July 8th. So we're pushing the July 8th now due to bodily harm. So everything is prepared. We got our lifts, we got our licenses, we're feeling good. We got the correct lift to go to the situation. To get the correct lift, what I ended up doing is shooting video of the site, and I brought the video to the rental company, and I said, here's the site I need a lift for. It has rocks, it has some roots, it's got some mud, make sure I have the appropriate lift. So, there's a major equipment failure. So, the stressometer now is at mega red because we're 8 days until 150,000 people show up at this wall, and this wall is still white. So this is Friday night. The plan here, if this didn't happen, was that we were gonna start Friday and paint through the following Saturday, giving us 8 days to complete this massive piece of art. So we started on Friday. We drove our little scissor lift to where it was supposed to be, only to realize that this thing is designed for concrete indoor floors. It can work outside, but whoever rented us this piece of machinery misjudged where we were going to be, dropped off this scissor lift, and said, this is the correct piece of equipment. So we're 2:45 in the morning on Friday night, which is technically Saturday morning. We're freaking out. This is my husband, Steve, faking yelling fuck, but he is actually thinking fuck. Now, if anyone knows about these pieces of machinery, when you're going beep, 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 there's like neighbors all around here. And they clearly were like not feeling this, to the point where one of them, named John, came out and he said, hey, are you having trouble? And we said, we are having trouble. He had a license to operate this machinery. So he went into he invited us to his home at 2:45 in the morning, and he brought us into his little crawl space under his home, which had all these like 2x4s. And he's like, okay, I know you guys are pushing time. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make a track with 2x4s along the wall, so you can just drive the scissor lift along the track. So we're like, fuck, let's do it. So we're driving along. He ends up taking off. He goes home to his wife. It's like 3 a.m. And then Steve and I are like, all right, let's get this shit done. So we start backing up, and then Steve's like, move the board. And I'm like, the board is moved. So I move the board a little bit more, and he's like, no, move that board. And I'm like shaking, panicking at this point, like, fuck, oh my God. So I move the board, and long story short, the scissor lift falls off the boards, and then it leans into the wall, and it's actually balanced on the wall. Now, if you are strong, you could probably move this by hand, which no one can, so we're pretty fucked. Again, we're 8 days to drop dead date of the festival starting. So we go home, this is about an hour and a half later, and if you notice the date there, July 1st is Canada Day. And I didn't really think about the fact that equipment rental companies are closed on long weekends. So we're sitting on our roof here thinking, fuck. And we just decide, like, we can't do anything. So I got to go to sleep that night knowing that the next morning I need to call the client and tell them that not only has she given me all this leeway because of falling and busting my ankle, now I've pushed a scissor lift into her wall. So the next morning, after a lovely call with Jane, she is very understanding, but she says to me, well, what can we do? And I say, well, we need to get the lift off the wall in order to actually start, because we can't actually start on ladders with this thing pushed into the wall. So we end up calling this company, outer city company, and convincing the city of Vancouver and Jane that it's okay, that they need to spend 3 times the cost to hire a private tow truck to drag the broken scissor lift off the wall, knowing that we only have 7 days to go until this 150,000 person conference starts, or 150,000 person festival starts. So Steve and I are like, fuck it, we're going out for breakfast. So we did, because we had no option and nothing to do. And this is Saturday. This is one of our prime working days. And we can't do anything because there's a lift stuck in the wall. The soonest that the company could come get the lift off the wall was Sunday night. So we're like, well, fuck, okay, we're going out for breakfast. So this is the next day, and why I love this picture is because we were so feeling angst about this project that we actually went to the wall and secretly watched the tow truck driver drag the lift away. We're actually sitting across the street, kind of laughing and kind of like, that sucks. Watching this money happen and knowing that in 6 days, 150,000 people are showing up, and this wall's still white. Monday, 5 days away from the drop dead due date, we resort to ladders, and if anyone has ever been on ladders for 20 hours plus a day, it's fucking painful. I won't lie. I think it's probably some of the most pain I've physically been in my life, other than hurting my ankle. But we don't really have a choice, so we resort to ladders. You can see how high we can get on that ladder up in that corner. It sucked, but you do what you gotta do. Now, I wanted to post this picture because in this Instagram day and age, we are constantly posting all these lovely process pictures. And in this one, I look really happy, but I'm really thinking, fuck. So finally, our new lift arrives with 4 days to go until 150,000 people show up, and this wall has got to be done. So we're at Tuesday, and we work Tuesday, and we work Wednesday, and we work Thursday. Now we're 2 days away from this conference happening. I keep saying conference, it's street festival, apologies. So we finally get this font put on that says Kitsilano. We're feeling really good, everything is rocking and rolling. Friday, 1 day until this festival happens. We go on site, we get the signature done. Luckily, we were worried about this piece being graffitied all week because there were definitely a couple graffiti people checking it out, but I won't break it and say that that happened. It did not happen. Saturday, I think we're the happiest people on planet Earth. This is actually, I've never felt so happy. I look at the glee in my face, and that is not a lie. This is one of the hardest weeks that I had ever experienced in painting a large piece of public art of this scale. But it works out great because on the actual festival day, the City of Vancouver rented this little red carpet. They rolled it up, and the piece had awesome lines of people really excited to experience wearing these wings all day long. We just watched in the background, feeling so exhausted. I don't think I had slept that little amount of time ever. It was pretty much work all day, work all night to get this thing done on time, but this is the day. And this piece so far has been photographed over 10,000 times and counting. It's, thank you. It's called Kids Wings. What I wanted to do here is just toss a photo up because when I look at this piece, I see a lot of people interacting with it in such a positive and happy way, but I can't help but think how painful of a process and how much learning went into actually accomplishing this piece. So while it brings a lot of joy, it also is a really big reminder that you can really achieve anything if you just do whatever it takes to get it done, quite frankly. So just in comparing back the corporate brain and creative brain, so it is the confidence and the perfectionist attitude, the ability to control a situation, discipline and time management. These are all like very basic skills that, again, you said you all could relate to. Being able to anticipate everything, this is the complete opposite of what happens in commercial mural painting. The creative brain has taught me to say yes to the most terrifying things in my life. It's taught me that excitement happens before realism kicks in. It's actually taught me, this is one of my favorite ones, I actually work anxiety into my process because it got to the point where I was feeling like I would take on a project and then I would get so far and then I'd be like, what the hell, I'm not qualified to be doing this. Why are they even hiring me? Just give them a refund. So I actually have a part in my process which allows a couple days of feeling like I will never be able to accomplish this process. I am comfortable now knowing that mistakes can happen. I'm figuring out how to embrace for unavoidable challenges, specifically because we've now been through so many. And the fact that when the fuck-ups happen, I'm really trying to stop and think about what has happened, think about what has happened before and what might happen next, and actually remember that I feel alive when I'm experiencing fear. So to finish off here, again, I just want to stress, when you see feeds of art and Instagram and social media, you are seeing the final product. You really have to dig and dive to hear those final stories. We're trying to do a lot more of sharing the fuck-ups throughout the process on our feeds, which has been great because we actually get a lot more artists now coming to us with their fuck-ups and asking advice or commenting that they can feel the angst that you're feeling, that we're feeling in that moment. And it's just been a really good learning process to go through. So thank you very much.
You stay up here. Was anyone else's hands sweating during those final 7 days?
Mine was.
Yeah, exactly. Any questions for Sandy? We have to have a question. Wait till we get a mic so we pick it up. So at the back. Mark at the back. So we're taping everything, so we want to make sure that everything is captured.
Sorry, who raised their hand?
Behind you, Rodrigo.
I would imagine, is this on? I would imagine due to the terrain that scaffolding probably wasn't an option for you guys, but did you guys ever consider that?
Yeah, so scaffolding is all right. We have never done scaffolding. We've considered it before, but just based on the the rigid terrain and the ability to drive the actual proper aerial lift around. It made us be able to get to any exact height we needed. Sometimes when you're painting so close on a wall, even 2 to 3 inches of being able to raise makes a massive difference. Whereas if you're on scaffolding, you'd actually have to bring little step stools up every level with you. So it's a great idea. We've never had to do it, but many projects would require it where aerial lifts are not necessary.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just pass it.
This person that represented the person that you were getting the project from, you said she was like, she really was understanding. I mean, when you say she was understanding, she's obviously wanting to get this project done at the same time. So at what part was she being nice, and at what point was she just like, just hurry up and get this fucking thing done?
You know what? I'd say I heard it in her voice. The ankle thing, totally. She was totally like, no one's gonna get mad at you for that part. I heard a little bit of tension in her voice the morning of that breakfast photo, where I dialed her phone number. And you know when you dial someone and you really don't want the call to happen and you just stare at their name? I was standing there and I was just staring at her name, thinking like, here goes nothing. Click. And I called her and she's like, how did it go? And then I had to just think about how to answer that question.
You just lay it all out, or do you just like how do you explain something like that? Like,
so in that situation, we talked to her about there being a miscommunication between the rental company and the terrain, which definitely, if we had more experience, if we have the experience that we have now, we would have known that. But there's a first for everything, and without having the experience of knowing what you need, you're gonna fuck up. So it just made us look weak, like we didn't know what we were doing. I felt that. My husband, he is more chill in these situations, and he can communicate these things in way more professional terms. So he's got better outlook there, but I'm the one who made that call, and that call sucked.
Hey, Sandy, thanks
Hi.
for the talk.
No problem.
Just wanted to ask you, based on the previous question, was there any feedback after the fuck up or any of the other murals that you'd be willing to share with us? Phone call after with the woman who said, hey, you know what, gotta get this done, right? So you're across the finish line, what happened after?
Yeah, it's a good question. So of all the murals we've ever done, which is probably, I think we're into 40 or so now, some of them have had very bad fuck-ups, but we're to the point now where we're experienced enough to know how to get out of it without the client ever knowing that anything happened. So we've never had one quite
I love the honesty.
like that one. The worst ones that we've had, like the most recent one that we had that really sucked was the company gave us, so the building was being built, and the company gave us the blueprint of the wall that we were going to be doing, and it was a large one, like over 700 square feet. And when we designed the art, I guess in their drywall, like their architecture drawings, they hadn't put where all the pipes, the water pipes and furnace pipes were gonna be. So our art was designed to go right to the top. And when we actually brought the art to the site on the install day and then figured out how to transpose it properly, there was about a 4-foot discrepancy, which was pretty shitty. We couldn't just go home and redo the art because it's been signed off by 100 people by this point, and I can't just fake it till I make it on the wall. It's not that kind of art. So we ended up having to think really hard on the fly on what we were going to do in that situation, and the fact that you don't know what I'm talking about means that it worked out. Yeah.
Hello. Thanks
Hi.
so much for sharing, Sandy, and for being vulnerable. I think in this day and age, we've been talking about it, how on social media, you always just see the perfect end result, and people seem to measure themselves against that end result. And I thought I'd ask a curious question, because Jeff asked, and I listen.
Yeah.
I'm very curious. Absolutely magnificent I see them as angel wings. And I'm just very curious, when you look at them now, what do they represent to you?
So initially when we came up with that concept, it was trying to reflect a moment that we had together when we first moved to Vancouver. We were walking around in this park and we actually had a bald eagle come and really interact on a close level with us. So when we conceptualized the art and came up with the story for this piece, I couldn't help but obviously think of that. What I love about the wings in particular is while they are bald eagle wings, they carry so much significance in very different ways with people. Like if you read all the different captions and people have done, you know, we had a film in front of it, we've had music videos in front of it, like it's had team photos, it's had ads in front of it, it's brought a lot to very different people. So when I look at it now, I don't know, there's something about like the strength and how majestic a bald eagle is that I do have a connection there with the fact that that thing was really hard to do at that time. We've come a long way, and we would probably be able to whip that one out now very fast, but 2 years ago we hadn't done nearly as many as we've done now, so it's definitely a reminder that, you know, of how hard things can get when you have clients depending on you, and how to think fast and hard and stay with it. Yeah, and thank your muscles a lot for that one. I ended up wearing really tall, like, construction boots because I was worried about, like, fucking up my ankle. The whole time I was painting it, which imagine that, it's like, hey Jane, not only did I put a scissor lift in your wall, I've fucked up my ankle now, so. But looking at that very large white wall and knowing that many people are coming in such a short period of time is, it's memorable. So.
Everybody, welcome Sandy to Fuck Up Alumni.
Thank you. Thank you.